Hey everyone, ever get that feeling like something's pulling at you, but you kind of hesitate to really go for it?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like maybe there's this dream you've had forever, or you feel a nudge to make a change, but then the doubts start creeping in.
Happens to the best of us.
That's exactly what we're diving into today.
Oh,
We're
cool.
going to unpack this whole idea of stepping out on faith.
Okay.
We're looking at a really insightful YouTube video by the Faith and Fellowship podcast with Melbo.
Okay.
It's titled Top 5 Ways to Embrace Stepping Out on Faith, 2025.
Catchy.
I know, right?
So, stepping out on faith, huh? It's a phrase we hear a lot, but I think sometimes it's hard to actually understand what it means practically. You know,
That's so true. But luckily, Melbo breaks it down into 5 core principles. And these resonate whether you're coming from a purely faith-based perspective or just looking at it through a more secular lens.
I like that.
So he starts off with this idea that faith follows God's command. And he uses some awesome examples from the book of Hebrews. Like, think about Abraham leaving his homeland,
Yeah.
or Noah building the ark when there wasn't a cloud in the sky.
Oh, I love those stories.
Right. And what's interesting is how they show us that stepping out on faith, it's not about being reckless.
Hmm.
It's not about just closing your eyes and jumping into the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
and crossing your fingers.
It's not blindly hoping for the best.
Exactly. It's more about aligning yourself with what you believe to be like a higher calling, or maybe just a really, really strong sense of direction.
Yeah, it's like you have that deep down feeling, that conviction that this is the right move,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't make perfect sense to everyone else.
Totally. That makes you think about entrepreneurs who take huge risks. Like they risk everything to start a business.
Oh, yeah, they often talk about that gut feeling,
They
right?
do.
Yeah.
Like an undeniable vision that drives them, even if the logical thing would be to just play it safe.
Makes you wonder where the line is between just like taking a risk and truly stepping out in faith.
Right. It's a good question.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you see a connection there?
Oh, absolutely. I think that unwavering belief, that sense of knowing, it's like a core element of stepping out on faith,
Yeah.
whether we use those spiritual terms or not.
I love that. So Melville's second principle is this: faith is willing to wait.
Okay,
And
interesting.
he contrasts this idea of fast food faith with something he calls crockpot faith.
Crockpot faith. I
Yeah.
like that. Tell me more.
Well, it's such a great analogy. Because let's be honest, we live in a world that's completely obsessed with instant gratification.
Ugh, yeah, tell me about it.
We want results like now. And that seeps into everything, even how we think about faith and taking leaps.
That makes a lot of sense.
But think about those incredible slow-cooked meals, the ones that simmer for hours,
Wow.
where the flavors all kind of blend together and get richer over time.
So good. There's something special about that slow process.
Exactly. It's like comparing a microwave meal to a family recipe that's been passed down for generations. There's this depth and complexity that you just can't rush.
That's a perfect way to put it. And when we apply that to, to faith, it's about trusting there's a much bigger picture at play.
Even when we can't see those immediate results.
Right. It's resisting that urge to force things or take shortcuts.
It's trusting something bigger is at work.
Yeah.
And that's where patience comes in, right?
Yeah.
Because waiting, especially when you're unsure about the outcome, that can be so hard.
It is. It's a real test of our trust in, well, something beyond ourselves, I guess.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, it often feels like it's in that waiting period where we actually grow the most.
You're so right. It's like the waiting shapes us.
It totally does.
Hmm.
Okay, so moving on to Melba's third principle, and this one can feel a little unsettling.
Okay, lay it on me.
Faith moves forward without all the facts.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is. How do you make a big decision or take a leap when you don't have all the details? It's kind of scary.
It's so human to want certainty. Before we make a move, we want to gather all the information. But honestly, how often do we really have all the facts in life?
Especially with big decisions, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about changing careers or moving to a new city.
Or even just starting a new relationship.
Yeah, there's always going to be that element of risk. There's always that unknown.
Always. And I think this principle, it highlights a really crucial difference. It's the difference between blind faith and informed faith.
Interesting.
It's not about just throwing caution to the wind and acting impulsively.
It's about being thoughtful about it.
It is. It's about seeking guidance, gathering what information you can gather, and then,
Trusting your gut.
yes, trusting that inner compass, even when the way forward isn't totally clear.
So making the best decision with what you have at that moment.
Yeah. Trusting your instincts and being open to, adjusting course if you need to.
That makes a lot of sense. And sometimes just taking that first step, even without all the answers.
That's when things start to become clear.
Exactly. You unlock the next level.
Makes me think of Abraham again, leaving his home without knowing where he was going.
Wow, that took some serious courage.
It did. And trust. Makes you wonder what we could accomplish if we were all a little more willing to, step outside those comfort zones a bit more.
I love that. And speaking of comfort zones, that leads us right into Melbo's fourth principle.
Oh, perfect. What's number 4?
Faith is willing to leave comfort zones.
That's a good one.
He brings back Abraham's story here, showing how stepping out on faith.
It often means letting go of what feels safe.
Yeah, letting go of the familiar. And it's so interesting, right? How much we as humans crave that sense of security.
It's true.
That predictability.
Oh, yeah.
But I think sometimes those comfort zones, they can become like, gilded cages,
Totally. It's like you get so comfortable in your routine that you don't even notice the bars anymore. But somewhere deep down, there's that part of you that it yearns for something more.
It does.
For expansion.
For growth.
Oh, yeah.
And stepping out on faith, it's like breaking free from those limitations.
Yeah.
Those internal narratives that tell us we can't or we shouldn't.
It's about saying yes.
It is. It's about embracing the possibility of something bigger.
Even if it means venturing into the unknown.
Exactly.
And that takes courage.
It does.
To challenge those beliefs and step outside of what's familiar.
It doesn't always have to be these huge, life-altering changes.
Right.
Sometimes stepping out on faith can be as simple as trying something new. Or having a difficult conversation that you've been putting off.
That's a good one.
Or saying no to something that's not serving you anymore.
Oh, that's a big one.
It is. It's about the small steps that add up over time.
So it's not necessarily about the size of the step, but the direction you're taking.
Well, absolutely. It's the willingness to trust that nudge, that sense of calling.
Even when it might not make sense on the surface.
Yeah, even if it seems a little crazy to everyone else.
Right. This reminds me of Melbo's 5th principle, the one about embracing the power of the quote-unquote supernatural.
Okay, yeah. He talks about Sarah having a baby in her old age.
He does.
Yeah.
As an example of how faith in a higher power can lead to, seemingly impossible results.
Yeah, but even if we take away the specifically religious context, I think there's still that element of believing in something bigger than ourselves.
Totally. Whether you call it supernatural or just like the power of the human spirit.
Right. To overcome those obstacles.
Overcome huge obstacles. There's something so powerful about that belief, that unwavering belief in what's possible.
There is.
It's like that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
So true.
Our beliefs, they really shape our reality.
They do. And stepping out on faith, it's almost like we're choosing to believe in a reality that hasn't quite happened yet.
Oh, that's good.
It's a reality we're creating through our actions and our beliefs.
I love that. So Melbo, he finishes his video with 5 practical steps for developing this kind of enduring faith.
No, that's helpful. What are they?
He talks about prayer,
fasting,
seeking spiritual counsel,
yeah,
staying in God's word, and taking that first step, trusting God.
It sounds like even if we translate these into a more secular context, they're still pretty solid.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's about things like, being mindful, reflecting on ourselves, seeking guidance from mentors, immersing ourselves in inspiring things, and taking action even when it's scary.
It's about building that support system, right?
Right.
Both internally and externally.
It is.
So we feel empowered to, step out on faith and really go after what we want.
Yeah, to chase those things that light us up.
Yes. And, even with all the right tools and support, it's still not always easy.
It's not.
There will be doubt.
There will
be fear.
And uncertainty.
Yeah. And maybe even what feels like failures along the way.
That's true.
So how do we navigate that? Those challenging moments.
That's a big question.
It is. How do we keep going when we're feeling discouraged or tempted to just go back to that comfort zone?
It's about resilience, I think.
Resilience.
That ability to bounce back when things get tough, to learn from mistakes, and to keep going, keep moving forward, even when it's hard. It's like working a muscle.
The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
The stronger you become.
But it's easier said than done,
Absolutely.
Like when you hit a wall or you have a major setback.
It's so hard.
it can be really hard to see that bigger picture.
To stay hopeful.
To stay hopeful.
It is. But I think it's important to, first of all, acknowledge that it's okay to feel those things.
It's okay to not be okay.
It's okay. Feeling fear, uncertainty, that's all part of being human.
We're not robots.
We're not. But it's also crucial that we have strategies, ways to deal with those challenges.
Okay, so what are some strategies?
Well, one thing that I found really helpful is to build a strong support system.
Oh, yeah, like having your people?
It is. Your friends, family, mentors, a community, people who can encourage you.
People who get it.
Who get it, exactly.
Yeah.
And they can offer guidance, a listening ear.
It makes such a difference. Huh?
Oh, it does. We don't have to go through it alone.
Yeah.
And in addition to that external support,
Mm-hmm.
we have to develop internal resilience, too.
That inner strength.
That inner strength that helps you weather the storm and come out even stronger.
So what does that look like, building that internal resilience?
It's a few things. Things like mindfulness practices can be really helpful.
Okay.
Things like meditation, journaling, those can help you be more self-aware. And to regulate your emotions.
Okay.
And develop a more compassionate way of talking to yourself.
So it's about noticing those negative thought patterns.
Exactly.
And choosing to replace them with more positive, more empowering beliefs.
You got it. It's also about recognizing that setbacks, even what we might call failures.
They're not the end of the world.
They're not. They're opportunities to learn. Adjust your approach, gain new insights, and ultimately you become more resilient because of them.
It's like a reframing, right?
It is.
Instead of failure being this big, scary thing.
It's a stepping stone.
It's a stepping stone on the path to success. Yeah. It's all part of the process.
Exactly. Stepping out on faith, it's not about knowing every single answer.
Right.
Or having a perfectly smooth journey.
It's about embracing the unknown, right?
It is. Trusting the journey and believing that even when things get messy, something good is happening.
That even the detours can lead to pretty amazing places.
Oh, they often do. It's in those moments when we have to pivot to change our course.
Yeah.
That's when we discover new strengths. That's when we get creative.
Tap into that creativity.
Exactly. And we create paths we never could have imagined.
It's pretty amazing.
It is.
It really is about the journey, isn't it?
It is.
And sometimes I think we get so caught up in thinking about those big, massive, life-altering leaps of faith.
Oh, yeah, the huge ones.
Yeah. That we forget about the little chances we have every day to just trust our gut.
To practice that, yeah.
Yeah, we don't always have to quit our jobs or move across the world to be stepping out on faith.
Right. Sometimes it's the small stuff, like having that tough conversation.
Well, that's a good one.
Or setting boundaries. Or finally starting that project you've been putting off forever.
Yes. It's about those little nudges.
It is.
Those things that push us just a bit outside of our comfort zone.
Exactly. And that's how you build up those faith muscles.
It's like training.
It is.
And you know what? I think those small acts of courage, they can have a ripple effect.
Oh, yeah.
Not just in our own lives, but in the lives of others around us.
For sure.
It's like that whole pay it forward idea. When we choose to act with kindness, with compassion.
Or courage.
Or courage, yeah. It inspires others to do the same.
It creates this chain reaction.
It does. Like planting seeds.
It is. Planting seeds of possibility.
I love that.
And who knows what might grow from those little seeds.
Right. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive on stepping out on faith, there's something else I wanted to touch on, something that comes up a lot.
Okay.
The fear of failure. That feeling can be so paralyzing.
Yes.
It keeps us stuck,
in those comfort zones.
in our comfort zones.
Yeah.
And it stops us from taking those risks, the ones that could lead to amazing things.
Fear is definitely a powerful emotion, but it's important to remember that a lot of times it's based on things that we think might happen, not things that are actually happening.
Interesting.
Like our brains are wired to protect us, so they tend to exaggerate danger, even if the danger isn't really there.
It's like our brain's defense mechanism. So how do we work past that fear, that what-if feeling that just holds us back? How do we build up that trust and courage to take the leap, even when we're scared?
I think first you got to just admit that fear is going to be there.
Accept it.
Yeah. It's okay to be afraid. It doesn't mean you're not strong enough.
Right.
Actually, a lot of times the things that scare us the most...
Those are the things we're meant to do.
Exactly.
It's like they say, everything you want is on the other side of fear. But, okay, it's one thing to just say, accept the fear. How do we actually move through it? What are some things we can actually do?
I think a good place to start is to change what you're focused on.
Okay.
Instead of thinking about what could go wrong, think about what could go right.
Shift the perspective.
Yes. What if it all works out? What if this leads to something amazing?
So we're consciously choosing to focus on the good stuff.
You got it.
Yeah.
Because if you just keep thinking about the worst case scenario, it just makes the fear bigger.
Feeds the fear.
Exactly.
This kind of makes me think about how we view failure, too. What if we looked at those setbacks and challenges?
Not as the end of the world.
Not as failures.
Yeah.
But like as valuable learning experiences.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right. It's an opportunity to try again, to get better.
To get stronger, to become more adaptable.
So we can use it to grow. That's a huge shift in perspective.
It is. And stepping out on faith, it's not about always having the perfect answer. Right. It's not about having a perfectly easy journey.
There are going to be bumps in the road.
There are. But it's about having that trust.
Trust in yourself.
Trust in the process.
Trust that things will work out.
Exactly. It's letting go of the need to control everything.
Surrender to the journey.
Yes. And knowing that even those detours, even the unexpected turns,
can lead to really great places.
They can lead you exactly where you're supposed to be.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave everyone with this. What's that one tiny step, that one little thing you can do today to get closer to that dream?
That goal.
That goal, yeah. That thing that's been calling to you.
That's been whispering to your heart. What's one thing, no matter how small, that pushes you a little outside your comfort zone?
That makes you trust a little bit more.
That makes you open to something amazing happening.
Because even the smallest act of courage
can change everything. So step out on faith, embrace the unknown, and get ready for the adventure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep diving deep.